I'm starting to worry Drew McIntyre is going to be left out of the feud which has been so important in heading into WrestleMania, but I'm also starting to feel a bit more positive about Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, but Charlotte Flair's new visual identity? Well, I hate it. I'm Ben Allison, you're watching Allison Analysis, and here are my 5 key findings from last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. In at number 5, okay, I'll admit it, Jey Uso was a good choice to win the Royal Rumble. The other day, immediately following it happening, I said that I didn't really know how I felt about it. There were other options which I thought made a lot more sense, but I was going to wait and kind of see how it would go. Additionally, if I'm being completely truthful, I didn't really care about seeing Gunther versus Jey Uso again. I didn't think their match at Saturday night's main event was, that good. It was a good match, but nothing too special that you'd really want to see again at WrestleMania. Plus, I didn't think Jey came close enough to actually beating Gunther for me to believe it was a possibility of it happening. But last night's reaction to Jey Uso, well, it just changed all my mind about this. The crowd were going absolutely wild. You could see how much it meant to him, how much he deserved it. And you know what? I'm sold on it. And then Gunther came out, and in a promo which lasted like 45 seconds, he sold me on wanting to see the match again. It was the best Gunther promo in quite some time. So you know what? This segment last night, it did a brilliant job at making me want to see that match at WrestleMania. And I do think that is the match we're going to see at WrestleMania, but I'm all for it now. In at number 4, it looks like we are going to see Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn once again at Mania. I predicted this a few weeks ago, but after Kevin Owens hit a pile driver on Sami Zayn last night, well, it looks like it's all but definitely happening. That is, of course, if you saw the pile driver, despite all the glitches Netflix was having. But I'm all for this feud, and I know a lot of people are saying, but we only saw it a couple of years ago, and that is true, but this time the roles are reversed. Back then, Sami Zayn was the heel who was a bit delusional. This time, it's Kevin Owens. It makes a lot of sense, the roles are reversed, and I will never complain about seeing these two face each other. But why did KO take out Sami Zayn last night? Well, I guess we're going to have to wait till next week to find out. In at number 3, could Io Sky be Rhea Ripley's WrestleMania opponent? One thing I found really bizarre about last night's episode of Raw was the fact that Rhea Ripley cost Io Sky that match. Obviously, she was trying to cost Liv Morgan and even the odds, but we've pretty much gone past this Liv and Rhea thing now. No way is that going to happen at WrestleMania. So the fact that this happened, well, it must serve a bigger purpose. And one theory could very simply be that they're going to do Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky at Elimination Chamber. But what if Io Sky found another way into the Elimination Chamber match and then ends up winning it and then blames Rhea Ripley for trying to cost her getting the opportunity? Because last night they laid the groundwork for what could potentially be, if done right, an absolutely fascinating feud. And let's face it, nobody is going to complain about seeing Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. They could steal the show at WrestleMania. And despite Charlotte's promo last night, I still think we're going to see Flair versus Tiffy. I definitely think that's the direction. So I'm guessing it's either going to be Ripley versus Io Sky or Ripley versus Becky Lynch, as I previously predicted. But before we get into the top 2 findings, if you guys could like and subscribe and leave a comment as well, that would be massively appreciated. Here at Wrestling Republic, we do between 5 to 10 free videos every single week, and in addition to that, we do a live daily stream at 8 PM UK, 3 PM Eastern over in America, and 12 PM Pacific over in America, and we hope to see you guys there. Thank you. In at number 2, I hate Charlotte Flair's new visual identity. This is going to be one of those takes where I get so much hate for and people are going to say, oh, you're overthinking things. But as somebody who studied design at university, as somebody who wrote their dissertation on the importance of design within professional wrestling, this stuff matters. From superheroes to professional wrestlers, the colors of somebody's attire, the costume does matter. From superheroes to wrestlers, the colors which you wear matter. It is the first thing somebody sees of you when they see you for the first time. And it communicates an important message without saying a word. And Charlotte Flair's new color being yellow, well, it makes absolutely no sense. She had a phenomenal visual identity before as the Queen with those blue diamonds. It worked so well. And the only thing I can think of is maybe she's trying to separate her legacy from her father's legacy. And fair enough, but yellow makes no sense. Yellow indicates that you are overly happy, a lovable person. And Charlotte Flair is not that. That is not the character which Charlotte Flair has played for years and years. And she plays the heel role so well. And yes, I know she could be wearing it ironically, but I don't think in her case that's what they're doing. I know, for example, Chris Jericho wears yellow because he pretends he's all positive, and that's his character, and that kind of does work for that. But for Charlotte Flair, that's not the character she's trying to play. And I know people are going to go nuts at me in the comments over on Instagram again, I know it. But it does matter. People say it won't, it will. And in at number 1, WWE cannot forget about Drew McIntyre. For months, I've been predicting that it will be McIntyre versus Rollins versus Reigns versus Punk at WrestleMania, and people have laughed at me, but every single week we're getting closer to it happening, but I'm starting to fear that McIntyre won't be involved. He has been so important in this storyline. He is the glue that brings those three men together, and we have to see him involved. I mean, just the sight of seeing those three men in the ring together at WrestleMania should make McIntyre furious, so surely he's going to be. But based on what we saw at the Rumble and last night on Raw, there's just no reference of McIntyre when they're talking about these three guys, and this makes me quite angry actually for McIntyre, because he has done so much work in this feud this past year, he deserves to get the flowers for it at WrestleMania. In fact, you could even argue that he deserves to win it. And I know I did originally predict the Raw title was going to be involved in this match, and it now definitely won't be. I was completely off on that part of the prediction, but I do think it has to be the Fatal 4-Way. And even if McIntyre ends up losing, from there he could go in a massive downward spiral, which leads him into after WrestleMania, a feud with the Wyatt Six, and an eventual repackage down the line. But now it's time for a new segment here on Allison Analysis, where I give my pros and cons from last night's episode of Monday Night Raw in 60 seconds. So without further ado, here are my pros and cons from last night's episode of Monday Night Raw in 60 seconds. Firstly, the New Day's new theme and look, it fits their heel characters so well. Then the Penta and Pete Dunne tease, I would love to see that match. Also, shout out to Gunther, because he sold me on that rematch against Jey Uso in like 45 seconds. It was brilliant, that promo. Then I've got to talk about Io Sky versus Liv Morgan, because those two ladies put on an absolute banger. And talking about bangers, the main event, CM Punk versus Sami Zayn, those two absolutely delivered. But now the cons, and the main one was Netflix's production. What were they doing? It was glitching all night long, and it got worse as the show went on. But the only other con was Charlotte Flair's promo, specifically the first about 2 minutes of it before Rhea Ripley came out. But even still, I really enjoyed last night's episode of Raw, and it gets a subtle round of applause from me. But that's all for today's episode of Allison Analysis. What did you guys think of last night's Monday Night Raw? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. See you guys then. Peace!